The very first episode of Know Your Church here in News at 8. Welcome. And today we are going to be uncovering the rich history of what you know as St. Paul Cathedral or St. Paul Cathedral, Namirembe Diocese, which was formerly known as the Eastern Equatorial Province. And of course, all that history is going to be uncovered to us or brought to us here by Reverend Canon Lubega Kisakye, very interestingly, and person who has a very rich history in this regard. So I want to welcome him, and of course it was very important to start with the very first church here in Uganda. And of course we cannot move a journey minus knowing where we started from. Well, I want to welcome Reverend Canon Lubega Kisakye to this interesting segment of News at 8. Good evening.
Good evening, brethren, members and viewers of Family TV. I'm so grateful about this program of Know Your Church, and especially as we begin today with the Namirembe Cathedral. When we talk about Namirembe Cathedral, we go back to the journey which started in 1875 when Henry Morton Stanley met the then King of Uganda, Mutesa I. He met him at Banda, currently where our current king, Ronald Mwenda Mutesa II, is residing, and it used to be called Banda Balogo. Balogo is a Luganda word meaning witches. I don't know whether there were witches there, but it was the code name of that place. So Stanley met King Mutesa there, and interestingly, Stanley was a journalist, like you here. And as a journalist, he was interested in this king, and he told him about England. You know, Stanley came, one, looking for David Livingstone. Secondly, he was from the Royal Geographical Society, which was interested in Africa. Now when he came and told him Mutesa about England, Mutesa was excited by three things. Number one, he told him that in England there is a religion and they worship God who sent to the world his son Jesus Christ to redeem mankind. And he told him, when you believe in Jesus Christ, there are no sacrifices. And by that time, Uganda had a problem of sacrifices. They would sacrifice people, animals, and the king was interested to see where someone can go to worship without offering sacrifices of human beings. Secondly, he told him about the technology, the education, that when people were in England, people learned, there's a lot of technology. And thirdly, he interested him when he said England, that vast country, is ruled by a woman, Queen Victoria. And so Mutesa was interested. And by the end of the visit, they agreed. And Mutesa wrote a letter to the Queen of England, Queen Victoria, asking for the missionaries who could come and evangelize his country. Fortunately, the letter was taken by Stanley. And when it reached England, it was read in 1875 in November in a paper called the Daily Telegraph. Interestingly, Mutesa had written, and they had never heard of it in Africa. Mutesa had written that I am ready to pay for the missionaries. Because at that time, Africans, we are relying on those people, the Europeans, the Asians. But this was a strange person saying he will pay, and he will pay in the currency they want. So they were interested. And they began looking for people. And then in 1876, a group of missionaries from the Church Missionary Society set off from England to come to Uganda. And they codenamed it the Lake Victoria Mission. It was led by Lieutenant Shagod Smith and Reverend C.T. Wilson. As you know, most of them had a problem of fever and they couldn't reach. And here on the 30th June 1877, Fortunately, Shagod Smith reached here and Reverend C.T. Wilson. The other members came later, like Mackay. Alexander Mackay came in 1878. So that is where we come from. And when they came here, the mission started with at Kabaka's place at Rubaga. And in 1879, another group of missionaries came. These were from the Catholics. And Mutesa, the first, as we know him, he was a statesman. And he was amazed when these two people, we are talking about Jesus Christ, but quarreling. So I could not understand them. They are talking about the same person, the Savior, and they were quarreling. So what he decided, that since he had known the Anglicans for 2 years, these new ones, the Catholics, he didn't know, so he said, you whom I don't know, stay in my palace, and he relocated the Anglicans to Mackay, Natete, the place which is called Mackay. Yes. So they relocated to Mackay. But history tells us, before they relocated, he gave them a place at Runguja. And we are still up to today, we have not got anybody who could say this is the real place. But they say, Mutesa had spies. They said, they told him that here where the Europeans are, they can see you when you are bathing naked. Because it's your Runguja and Rubaga, they are near. Okay. So he relocated them to Natete, because they told him they cannot see you when they are far. So the first station of our Anglican church was in Mackay, Natete now. As you know, history tells us that during the when Mutesa first died in 1884, Mwanga became the king, his son. And during those period, we had what we call religious wars. So during the religious wars, the station at Mackay was relocated to current Namirembe, where we are. But going back to our subject, as I told you in the beginning, that the whole of this area was called Eastern Equatorial Africa. And the first bishop who came to be our bishop died in Mombasa. He never reached this side, Bishop Parker. And after him, Bishop Hannington. Bishop Hannington tried to make his way, but was killed in Busoga, as we all know. Yes. Then lastly, Bishop Alfred Tucker. When Bishop Alfred Tucker came, he decided to relocate because he saw that it is a vast area. And so he said, he gave counsel to the people in England that they relocate. He relocates. So he came to Uganda. And now it became Uganda, taking also southern Sudan. And so when you come back to our cathedral, we begin with 1890, when Bishop Alfred Tucker came on this hill. And when he came here, the first cathedral was built in 1891. And the plan of the cathedral was drawn by one of the chiefs called Sebwato. He drew a very big structure, which he drew, and then that cathedral was blown by a strong storm.
It was temporary.
In 1890, yeah, it was temporary. Okay. They used the poles and grass. So in 1894, it came to the ground. In 1895, they began another cathedral, which was better than the first one. Okay. And but also because it was so large, it fell on the ground in 1901. And so the then Cathedral of Uganda decided to make a better one, with bricks. So it was the third cathedral was built in 1902 and finished 1910. But it was struck by lightning. Yes. So by that time, they began to think, how can we get a cathedral which is going to stand the test of the time? Because you see, this hill was infested by termites. And so they started soliciting for plans until they got a final one, which came here, and the fourth cathedral was started around 1913. But remember, those were years when the First World War, I think First or Second World War, was looming. Yes. Because First World War is around 15 to 18. So, but it was started despite all that. And so the cathedral which you see here now was started around 1913, and it was finished in 1915. And that cathedral, as we are in history, is a peculiar cathedral. Okay. Because you see, in our Anglican church, all stones, foundation stones, are laid by either bishop, no, not either, but by the bishop. Yes. The bishop is the one who lays all the stones on our Anglican churches. But St. Paul's Cathedral is different, because they agreed that the stone would be laid by the then King of Uganda. And so it was laid by the King of Uganda, Daudi Chwa II. And it was opened on 8th November 1915. But when you see that structure, you will wonder, because it was bigger than that. But at that time, people decided to take a smaller one, the one you see. Yes. If the whole plan was built, it would be larger than that. So before 1915, the Christians here sat and they decided, what name should we give to our cathedral? They had many names, but when they read the Bible, they agreed that Paul, because as you know, Paul was an apostle to the Gentiles. Yes. So they said, no, Paul should be the name of our cathedral. And they agreed on St. Paul's Cathedral. That's why it is called St. Paul's Cathedral, Namirembe. As you said that we should be doing it in segments, that's how St. Paul Cathedral came. Okay. And by that time, this was called the province of Uganda. The province of Uganda. Later, we added the province of Uganda, Rwanda, Burundi, and Boga, Zaire. That was later. But at first it was the province of Uganda. And so it was the headquarters of the province of Uganda.
Very important to note from what Reverend Canon has told us, the journey to have Namirembe Cathedral here, St. Paul's, starts in 1890, which was very, very fundamental. And then the very first cathedral is seen or put up, that was in 1891. So that is where the journey starts. We've seen you heard him speak of a number of them being put up, some being blown away, another one being taken off by thunder, things like that. But then a big one, the one we are seeing currently here today, starts off in 1913, and of course that is when the construction starts and then gets completed in 1915. Very fundamental. But now the biggest question since 1915 is, how do we have a cathedral that can stand a test of all this time? So you have to stay with us as we delve into this. This is Know Your Church. Please, you want to know what follows next. My name is Luke Majumba ALINAITWE.